Hi everybody, Jennifer Blevin-Smith here with Integral Clinic Solutions, and you're watching my YouTube channel, Navigating the Business of Medicine. Today's topic is about finding an IT specialist for your practice. Let me just be very honest with you up front that this can be a very large expense for you. And unfortunately, because we are in such an electronically based medical situation right now, that this is going to be something that you're not going to want to skimp on, and you're going to have to put up the money. That doesn't mean that you can't shop around and look for different options and try different vendors and get quotes, which I encourage you to do, but it is going to be a large sum of money. Not only is it going to be expensive for the upfront costs because of the equipment you have to buy and the installation of certain softwares and hardware that you'll need, but also to retain someone who knows the medical side of information technology and is very familiar and well versed in HIPAA compliance. You're going to want to find somebody who has worked with other medical offices, has a really great reputation with those medical offices, and hopefully willing to give you them as references so you can reach out to them directly and ask questions to vet their capabilities and their experience so that you're not just going off of what they say. You're going to need somebody who can hopefully come in, tell you what needs to be done, and will do it, and that you can rely on, because let's be honest, this is a scope and a realm that many of us are not very familiar with. And even as long as I have been in the medical field and doing management and administration, this is still something that just goes over my head in a lot of ways, and I don't know all of the technical ins and outs of all of this. I have a very high understanding of it, but to actually execute what needs to be done and needs to be shown according to HIPAA requirements is completely out of my capabilities. So this is somewhere you really have to make sure you're doing your due diligence to vet the person you hire or the company you hire, that they know what they're doing so they don't put you at increased liability. They're doing what they say they need to be doing, and they won't rake you over the coals when it comes to pricing. Unfortunately, you're kind of at the mercy of trusting these people, but if you can do your due diligence in the background and find if maybe you have colleagues who work with certain IT specialists or have suggestions that their colleagues know that works well for them, going off word of mouth and networking with those resources is definitely the way to go. Things that need to be taken care of are not just physical security things, but also the whole software situation and making sure that your network is secure and that your staff isn't going to inadvertently, accidentally access something or do something on their computers that is going to put you at a HIPAA violation risk, a hack risk. And because not only do you have to worry about your EMR system, which your EMR is going to have their own level of security and their own requirements that they will be responsible for maintaining when it comes to the IT side, but you want to make sure that the IT person or company that you hire will communicate and work with them to make sure they're all on the same page at the EMR system and your facility or your practice location, and also what happens all in between. So you have emails that will be coming in to staff and yourself. You're going to be having any kind of patient access to a network, which hopefully you have like a separate guest network that they access that's totally separate than how you operate all of your medical information from. And you need to make sure that things are updated on a regular basis, that things are going to be recorded and tracked regularly, so if there is any kind of issue that it's easy to find and fix. There's firewalls and there's backups and there's all these things that need to be taken care of. There's actually a whole list of things that's privacy and security. So there's three main things that your IT person is going to need to do. They're going to need to make sure that they are following and implementing and establishing and following up on all of the HIPAA privacy things that are required for your IT network. And then they're also going to have to do the same thing for your HIPAA security when it comes to the IT network, and then they're going to have to do a whole risk evaluation for both of those to see where there might be potential issues, how they're going to fix it, what your plan is, etc., etc., etc. They also should be providing you with a policy and procedure manual, so if whatever they're in charge of when it comes to the IT aspect of your practice, and there is a breach, there is a hack, there is an issue, what their policies and procedures are in order to fix that on your behalf. And you want to make sure that's in a contract with them. You want to make sure they take on some responsibility, and I would have a lawyer look over those contracts and make sure that it is covering you and you're putting fair liability on the company as well. And I would definitely make sure that I am entrusting and having a lawyer who specializes in the medical field and HIPAA looking over this and making sure that it's a fair contract for both parties. The thing about the IT people is that they can speak in a whole nother language that we don't even understand, but it makes sense to them. And you want to find somebody that can translate that information to you and your manager or administration so that you guys can make sure that you're working in conjunction with your IT department, making sure that things that need to be done in the office physically is going to coincide and work well with the policies, procedures, and any kind of setup they have established for your practice. So there has to be a really good communication line in all of that together. Again, you want someone that you can trust. You'll have them sign a BAA because, of course, they're going to be having access to a lot of sensitive information when it comes to healthcare information of patients and your financials and a business. You know, you make sure they sign a non-disclosure. I mean, you want to make sure you're covering your bases as much as possible. Again, this is going to be very expensive, and I would start shopping around early. Find out if they're willing to set up your physical network as far as putting in landlines and your hubs and your extenders and all of that you're going to need for the physical presence of the internet and the flow of everything in your office. And then also ask about the networking, the software part of it. Sometimes they only do the software networking part of it, and they will suggest or have recommendations for someone to set up the hardwire stuff or the physical stuff for you. Or maybe they will do both for you. But those are things that you need to ask. What do you do? Do you do setup? Do you just do maintenance? Do you do all of it? And do you work with people who do the things that you don't do and you can recommend them? But you definitely want to shop around, get quotes, go with your best quote, but also someone that you trust. And if you have to pay a little bit more, but you feel more secure about your decision with somebody, then go with them. This is something that is a shell shock when it comes to pricing for a lot of new practice owners. And so I just like to be very upfront, but this is somewhere you don't want to skip because you don't want to put yourself at high risk of any kind of data breach or issues, because that could put you in a really big financial situation, an issue that you can avoid very easily by putting the money up front. If you have any questions, leave that in the comments, please. If you have any suggestions or you have experience kind of seeking out this trade or this vendor for your practice, and you have some things that should be asked or vetted or looked into further before you choose, put that in the comments for your colleagues, please. And just keep in mind that although this can seem like a lot of information and a lot of things that you need to consider when starting a practice, there are certain places you don't want to cut corners and you don't want to skimp, and it's not appropriate, and this is one of them, and I'm going to be very honest with you. One benefit, though, is they might get discounts on computers or any kind of technology type hardware, so that's something to ask. Maybe they have, a company discount that they can get at HP or Dell or something, so maybe there's some benefits there. But just definitely make sure that this is something that you take the time to look into, to vet, and to understand what their responsibilities are going to be when it comes to the whole HIPAA realm. I'm going to do another video on just a high overview of HIPAA requirements for your office and what your staff and you and your administration need to be aware of and do on a daily basis, a yearly basis. But this is going to coincide with that, and it's a huge aspect. So make sure that you really take the time to understand HIPAA, what the requirements are, and what IT will be responsible for in that regard. Thank you so much. Hit the thumbs up button if today's video was helpful, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thank you for the support. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.